what's success right now? It's not going to be that montage. It's not going to be like, it was hard and then you got $20 million, it's not going to be that. So what is it today? And today is like, I'm going to get all these orders out. I survived today and I did X, Y, and Z. Deal with tomorrow. You made payroll yesterday. You made a baby smile. You got to pet a dog. You met a new customer, came in, was so excited the store exists. Did a podcast interview. That's success.
Today, we are chatting entrepreneurship. We're chatting with three incredible entrepreneurs, folks who are following their heart, taking risk, making something, and most importantly, listening to the call. We're chatting with Ariell Ilunga, who you just heard from. She is the founder of Carla's Fresh Market in Los Angeles. It's everything you love about a grocery store and none of the things you hate. We're also chatting with Bety Le Shackelford, the founder of Hella Good Deeds in Kansas City, a nonprofit committed to elevating the growing presence of Asian culture by celebrating heritage, narrative, and most importantly, connecting community.
Because there's not a huge Asian population here in Kansas City. We are less than 3%. And when I first moved here, I noticed in a lot of spaces I was the only Asian person. I never really stopped to think about how that really made me feel until the pandemic, with all the negative rhetoric against the Asian community.
And finally, the one and only Edith Gutierrez, the founder of Te Lo Juro Collective, a Latina-owned creative agency. I am sure you have seen her Walter Mercado merch all over the place.
You get Edith in whatever setting you get, right? Whether I'm like at the governor's mansion or whatever, or if I'm sitting next to you on the subway, or if I'm at a photo shoot, it's just Edith. So the idea of Te Lo Juro is to celebrate who you are and where you come from and show up as your authentic self.
In this episode, we get into all things purpose, passion, the definition of success, resilience when shit gets hard, and the Zen wisdom of dirt biking. Trust me, it is juicy. My favorite one, you gotta wiggle. As Edith says, life wiggles, so you gotta wiggle too. Okay, first up.
Can you tell us a little bit about your store?
My store is walking through my imagination of what could be. I ran farmers markets for 5 years, and I was so dedicated to the life, and all of our produce was coming from there, and it was such a game changer for our family. I had my second kid and couldn't get to the market, and at that point I was one of those people who would scoff at people who couldn't get to the farmers market. I just would be like, I don't understand why you can't get to the farm. It's just like so everything. And then I had a second kid, and I had that reality check where it's like, do I feel like putting these babies in a car and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the times the answer was no. So that was kind of the first light bulb moment that I'm in the life. I want access to that farm fresh produce. So sick of going to like 4 different stores to complete the shop. I need my basics. I like my farmers market produce, but I like a little special something, something too. That's the dream. That's the goal I march to every single day.
What is the problem with traditional groceries?
They're awful. They suck. Grocery stores suck, and we all know it. There's no windows. I call them food casinos. You go in, you don't know what time it is when you come out. It's like a barn. It's like shopping in a barn. So like vibes are 0 out of 10 for conventional grocery stores. And it's like something we have to do all the time. Yeah, it's like one of the most annoying errands that adults have to run. So that was the first thing, was like, how do we make it less ick? And I don't need all of those choices. I want less choices. I want it to be sort of vetted for me. And I want to see exciting things next to my staples. I love going a couple of times a week. I have far less food waste that way. Part of it was like wanting to build community and know who's like a part of my food supply chain. And then that just opened up a whole can of worms about where does food come from and where's the best food and why can't I get this right now? And so that just led me to the farmer's market, and I got all of those questions answered there.
I think a lot of people could identify with wanting to know where their food comes from, or at least wanting to be closer to it. besides going to your store, how does the average person get closer to their food, or tell us why that's important?
Well, I think food's pretty important. We do it a lot in the 24-hour span. And I think it's a very powerful medium, if you will. I think it's as powerful as film or music in uniting people and bringing people together and creating greater understanding and creating tolerance. It's real hard to hate somebody when you're gobbing down their tacos or sushi, or it's just a way to get to know the world. Just being mindful while you're eating your food and thinking about the flavors or the inspiration or the ingredients a little bit. And then the second thing is just most cities in this country have a farmer's market. And so a lot of them are seasonal because it gets cold in a lot of the country. But go there. That would be the first place I would go if I wanted to know a little bit more about my food. I mean, I have found to be one of the most generous group of community I've ever been a part of. And they are more than happy to share with you about why and how they grew something. And they're so proud of what they bring to market. And they love to share about that. So get to know your farmers.
Your store is not your name. So who's your store named after?
My store is not my name. I never would ever have named it after myself in a million trillion years. And I wanted the name to feel very familiar, and I wanted it to feel like home in the diverse communities of LA. I didn't want a 4-letter word with no vowels. Like, I wasn't trying to be like cool and techie. I just wanted it to feel like home, like just a like your spot, you know? And so my mom actually suggested Carla's because a dear friend of mine had passed away right before COVID lockdown. And I was missing her terribly and really grieving her. And when my mom suggested that we name the store Carla's, it was like a no-brainer. And Carla has been a huge inspiration for just pushing on through this project.
Where do you find your resilience? When we got on this call, you said, I am tired. And so there's a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to this show. And so where do we find our resilience? Where do you find your resilience?
I did make a promise to myself when I picked up my laptop again. It was like COVID, and I just was like, I'm not doing this. It's too hard, and no one's going to give me all this money, and I can't do it. And now I've got to be a mom to like my kids and a preschool teacher and Little House on the Prairie and like make things from scratch. And I'm overwhelmed and I can't possibly do this. And that was actually after quitting my job to do it. So I quit my job 2019 September to do this project, and COVID hits and I'm like, I can't do it. Like, I just can't. And that's when I was sitting in my backyard one afternoon, all in my feelings with everything going on in Carla. And clear as day, Carla's voice comes through and says, you need to get back to work. And I knew it was her because it wasn't like, pick up your laptop. It was like, get back to work, you know? And so I did. And that day, before I picked up my laptop, I was like, okay, here's a promise. I'm just not going to give up. Like, I'm just never going to stop. And if I don't stop, I'll get somewhere. No matter what, no matter how hard it gets, I just won't stop. So I have to remind myself of that promise I made to myself. Like, I just won't give up until the wheels fall off.
You have Frida behind you in your office.
Yeah, she's there.
What's Frida teach you? What does she remind you of?
She's just guarding the ship. She's just guarding us. She's keeping watch. She takes the night shift.
Nice, good. Security.
Yeah, pretty much. She holds us all accountable to our principles.
Yeah, Frida's epic. You've been to her house in Mexico City?
I have been to her house in Mexico City.
What'd you think?
I love the separate houses with her and Diego.
Oh,
I think it's fucking genius, is what I think.
I've been trying to convince my partner of separate beds forever. It doesn't ever work.
We're so American, you know, we're so like, oh, we must do all of these things together. And it's like, you don't have to.
I've been trying to sell separate beds for a long time.
I know. I'm trying to sell this other house.
I think that the story is that Tim Burton and Helena Bonham Carter
Yes.
had separate houses too.
I know. I think it's epic.
But then they also got divorced. So
They
you know.
did. That's a lot, though. I can see that coming. Like, that's a lot of energy in two homes.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Separate houses.
Oh, but you know, it's also like divorce isn't maybe a bad thing. Maybe they did all the things they were supposed to do together.
My next book is kind of about that, and I have this film project about it, which is, you know, we often say success. Movies have sold us success in relationship is till we die.
Yeah. Long time.
But it's also like if you burnt the candle and the candle burnt out, then it's a success. You used
Totally.
it. To use something to its limit is a success.
Yeah. Or if it's clean, it's clean. You know, you don't need to keep scrubbing.
And I think this is true of entrepreneurship and business is like, can we get away with the idea of the success model and what does it mean to just keep going, to take something to its limit? You know, there was a contemporary of Darwin who said the goal of every living thing is to exhaust itself. If you die of heart attack, it's actually heart failure. It's actually heart success. You know, like the goal of every living thing is to exhaust itself.
I do think about this success stuff a lot. And just finishing my first year of business and having my ass supremely kicked every way, this way, Tuesday, Thursday, just kicked my ass. As I'm closing out the year, I'm just like mentally doing a reflection, having these moments where I'm like, oh, so this is like what it's going to be, or this is, you know, and so I'm coming to that I have to redefine what a successful day even looks like. It's not going to be that montage. It's not going to be like, it was hard and then you got $20 million, you know, like it's not going to be that. So what is it today? And today is like, I'm going to get all these orders out. I survived today and I did X, Y, and Z. Deal with tomorrow. You made payroll yesterday. You made a baby smile. You got to pet a dog. You met a new customer, came in, was so excited the store exists. Did a podcast interview. That's success.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs and artists who it's just too easy to fall into highs and lows.
Totally.
Like it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad. Versus like, it is this.
Yeah, it is this. And that's the whole fucking life. And we've got so programmed through movies and media and now social media to think it is beginning, end. And it's like, you don't see all the shit in the middle. The shit's harder than it looks. And it is the hardest part of it all, really. We should all be getting like therapy that athletes get. Running sucks. And the only reason why you can keep doing it is because somehow you make your mind go somewhere else. Or you have a mantra or an affirmation you can focus your brain on. But the second you start focusing on your feet moving, you want to stop. Because it's awful.
I like to think I'm a pretty good meditator. You will not catch me running. I have yet to figure out that mantra that keeps me. But all my running friends are like, no. Once you you just got to keep going. Like you'll fall into that high and that meditation. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
It does happen, but it's hard. And you'll have it for 4 seconds and then you're back in your body. And it's like, well, I want to stop because my knees don't like this very much.
Yeah, I have a meditation teacher who he talks about Leith Tonino, and he says this quote, and this is like for travel, and he says, "The flight will depart on schedule or it will be delayed. The connection will be made or missed. Tomorrow will be spent with family barbecuing and swimming, or it will be spent curled in the fetal position with mini pretzel crumbs clinging to my beard. I have zero power, zero influence. I am at the mercy of large, inscrutable forces. So rather than fuss and fret, rant and rave, I am going..."
Archer, I'm on the phone. See? You were in the middle of this beautiful passage.
Absolutely perfect. Rather than fuss and fret, rant and rave, I'm going to walk circles silently, calmly, as long as necessary. And I think that's it. I think that's what we're talking about here. Like we're just walking as best we can, heart open. When the fire is blazing and when it's calm. Can you tell folks listening, especially the ones in LA, how do we find the store? Where do we go?
Oh,
Who you are, how they follow you, all the things.
Carla's Fresh Market is located in Highland Park. Our address is 248 North Avenue 50. We have a parking lot adjacent to the laundromat. You can follow us on Instagram at Carla's Fresh Market and find us on the web at carlasfreshmarket.com.
Hi, my name is Bety Le Shackelford. I am the founder and executive director of Hella Good Deeds, a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to elevate the growing presence of Asian culture in Kansas City.
What is a hella good deed? What qualifies as a hella good deed?
That's a great question. When I came up with the name, I've always wanted, ever since I was little, and I lived in downtown San Jose, and my mom worked at San Jose State University. So every time we would walk from the university to the parking lot and just driving around the area, I saw a lot of houseless individuals. And I always, since then, I just didn't understand how we live in a world where that was the case. And so I'd always wanted to do something to change that or change the lives of others who were not as fortunate or privileged as me to have a home and have food to eat. So a good deed, I would say, is doing something for somebody else. And a hella good deed is, because I'm from the Bay Area, hella is just, it's just what we say.
Where did hella good, how do you become interested in caring for others in this way, so much so that you start a brand around it, so much so that you start a movement around it? And why Kansas City and not the whole world? Why doesn't the whole world or the whole country
Because that is overwhelming for me to think of. When I was younger, falling asleep at night, first it'd be oh, I hope I'm safe. Oh wait, no. So I project a bubble around me. I'm no. I have to make the bubble bigger. Okay, that's my mom and I. Then it's my family that I lived with my grandparents and my uncle and my mom growing up. And then it's our house. I was no, our neighborhood, our city, our state. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so actually I ran into this issue a lot when trying to narrow down Hella Good Deeds focus, because I want to be able to do it all. I want to be able to take care of everyone in need, but I realize that I don't have that capacity. And so my small, quote unquote, small way of doing that is to focus on the Asian community here, because there's not a huge Asian population here in Kansas City. We are less than 3% of the population here. And during 2021, this was during the Stop Asian Hate movement. And when I first moved here, I noticed in a lot of spaces I was the only Asian person. I never really stopped to think about how that really made me feel until the pandemic, with all the negative rhetoric against the Asian community. I remember going to Sam's Club, and this is when we could go around and wear masks. I was nervous to make eye contact with people because I didn't want to see hate or fear in their eyes, because I'm the source of this flu, this Chinese virus that everyone was saying. So that was my experience during the pandemic. But then the culmination of the Stop Asian Hate movement was the Atlanta spa shootings in 2021. And up until then, I was really involved with Cafe Cafe. Cafe Cafe is owned by Jackie Nguyen, and it's the first Vietnamese coffee shop in Kansas City. And to me, it's a lot more than just a coffee shop. It's a place to celebrate our culture, specifically Vietnamese culture, but then branching out to Asian culture, and then even more so to marginalized communities. So one of our customers, who is now a board member for Hella Good Deeds, she's our board chair, Chi Nguyen, she went up to Jackie, and Kansas City was a new place for her, and she wanted to go somewhere to be with her community, because in all other areas of the country, I would say in other bigger cities and cities where we were originally from, had something going on for the Asian community, even if it was either a protest or just being together. And we couldn't find that here in Kansas City. And so we figured we would do one ourselves. So we decided to have a vigil for the victims of the Atlanta spa shootings. And almost 500 people showed up to our vigil. And to me, that showed that there was a need. And when people ask me about like how I felt about the vigil, I think it was really bittersweet. It was unfortunate that the reason that brought us all together was because there was this huge like Asian hate in the country, and especially to the elders, and the random like attacks and on the streets. But in another sense, and of course the shootings in Atlanta, but in another sense, it was really beautiful to see so many Asian people in one area, which I hadn't experienced since moving to Kansas City, and people holding signs up. And there's one in particular of a mom and her daughter, and she's holding a sign that says like proud to be Asian American. Oh, and I don't know that I just never experienced that anywhere before, because in other areas I never really celebrated being Asian. And so to do that and celebrate that here in a place where there's less Asian people, and I have a 3-year-old daughter, I think it's really important to celebrate that part of me, a part of her, and then part of all of us. A lot of the Asian people I've met here grew up in areas where they were likely the only or one of few Asian people growing up. And so it is also new to them to be in a room full of Asian people. So I want to continue that and just cultivate that love and connection in those in our community and those who are our allies.
This is the great struggle. It's the great predicament. You wanna belong, because belonging feels nice. Everyone wants to belong. We're tribal. You also want to not be excluded, but you also want to have what's yours. I think all brown people coming together under brownness is extremely powerful. I think we're far from doing that, but Blackness has done it in a beautiful way. You know, Blackness has excelled in saying you are Black. And, you know, that's why many Afro-Latinos who identify as Black really end up finding themselves in those communities, because they are brought in there versus in a lot of Latino communities, they're excluded. But that's why these conversations exist, and it's why I created this show. And I do believe in strength in numbers. I would love to be at your parties and know that my experience is uniquely different, but also very much the same.
Recently, Jackie, who the owner of Cafe, she's brilliant at marketing. And so she, as our board member, her contribution to Hella Good Deeds, on top of all the other things she does for Hella Good Deeds and Cafe, she does our marketing. She put up a post, and in the caption, she wrote my name, Bety Le Shackelford. And for Le, she wrote it the Vietnamese way with the diacritical mark. It looks like a hat. When I saw that, I just felt like I was hit with, I don't know what, I want to say like a train, but it's not violent and it's not bad. It's like a good thing. But being like, whoa, I just saw images of growing up and all the times I saw my name spelled that way. And then somewhere along the way, like I dropped that out of my speller, like elementary school on. I didn't have that. And even in my first name, having the accent above the E, that came out because Betty is actually a Vietnamese name and my Vietnamese name, but it just sounds like Betty, Betty. But I questioned myself. I was like, is that okay? Can I do that? I didn't even realize I could write my name the way that it's written in my language. It was such in a sense a silly question, because of course I can. Like, no one has ever told me I couldn't, and no one has stopped me, but I never thought to do that, or that I could take that ownership of even the way I write my name. And so I've been more intentional about doing that. I've added that in my like email signatures, and some people have started responding to my emails writing my name Bety with the mark on above the E, and it just feels so good in a way that I didn't think that it would, just to see my name that way. I realize this is a podcast, and so people can't see me or you, but I get emotional, or I'm getting emotional, because that goes with like claiming and really celebrating where I am from and how my ancestors pronounce, said, and would have spelled my name if they were still here.
Beautiful. Yeah, on that note, what a great and we will put your name the right way. How do we go from a city to 12 and a half acres?
Oh, yeah. So originally from Buenos Aires to Irvington, New Jersey. Grew up in the projects there. And then New York for many years, for like over 2 decades, working as an art director, creative director in the editorial space and that storytelling space, living in Brooklyn as a starving artist, and did that for many years. And then North Jersey, un ratito. Well, you fall in love. And I fell in love with a PA boy. And we started riding dirt bikes together, started motocross. So we were like, we need some land. And well, Lehigh Valley, which is where we're at, is like that 2-hour radius from Brooklyn, from New York, right? So our friends could still like come visit on the weekends. We can have this space where we could all ride, enjoy nature, and still dip into New York because I was still working as an editorial art director. So I was going back and forth. And that's how we ended up here, and now full time since COVID.
So love of dirt bikes took you to 12 acres. So you just ride on your own land?
So we ride on our own land. So we have 2 miles of trails within our 12 acres. We have like a side-by-side rhino, like I rip around on that. The whole family rides. I used to ride like a Ducati. I was on a Monster 620 dark back in the day. But then when my son was born, I gave up like street riding. But that fearlessness is still there, and, you know, the love of nature and kind of just living.
Wow, very, very cool. And tell me about Te Lo Juro Collective. Tell me about sort of you build resilience.
So Te Lo Juro Collective was started really when Hurricane Maria came through Puerto Rico. And my son donated like $13 he made at his abuela's garage sale. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, you know, obviously proud mama moment that he understood that it was important to stand up for our communities at a time, right, where, you know, the administration was like bashing who we were and how they handled the whole situation. And so I thought, oh, I'm going to just create something that's really just about like honoring our positivity and hope, because I know where the communities are going to come together. So I was like, I'm going to create a collective that is all about celebrating our pride, our cultura, with a sense of hope and positivity, right? And so the name Te Lo Juro came up because, like, that's just something I've been saying forever, right? Like, I'm super authentic. You get Edith in whatever setting you get, right? Whether I'm like at the governor's mansion or whatever, or if I'm sitting next to you on the subway, or if I'm at a photo shoot, it's just Edith, just who I am. So I'm just like always keep it real. So Te Lo Juro to me made sense, right? So the idea of Te Lo Juro is to celebrate who you are and where you come from and show up as your authentic self. Whatever deep sense of identity that is, celebrate it. We create fashion and art and designs that really lean into that mission and vision.
What's some Zen wisdom that dirt biking has taught you?
A fearlessness and a belief in yourself. If you are approaching a jump and you second guess yourself and you let off that throttle and you don't just believe that you're going to land it, all those things can turn into a disaster. So it's that belief in knowing that even if you're not seeing the landing on the other side, you're going to land it smoothly. And so it's like you envision yourself approaching the jump, believing 150% in that path that you are on and landing it. And so I use that as like being an entrepreneur, right? So like my belief in myself and my skill set and my value is the same belief that I have when I'm approaching jumps. It's like, I'm going to gas it. I'm going to go all in and I'm going to land it. And I'm going to succeed. Another really great metaphor is like, so when you're on a dirt bike, as opposed to like a street bike, when you learn on dirt first, which is what I did, you learn that the bike has to wiggle and you have to flow with it. And so the more you resist and you tense up, the more likelihood you're going to like skid out, you're going to lose control of the bike. So there is a relaxation to the control of the bike. It's that sense of trust and just going with it. So it's going to wiggle out, but you're all good. You're good. The minute you tense up and freak out, like it's like that's when you fall, you skid out. So when I learned on dirt, I learned to be flexible with the bike, to control it that way. So like same thing on sand, like that is the hardest thing to ride on. So then when I went to street bike, If like you're going over one of those bridges with the little ridges, a lot of motorcyclists will crash because they get freaked out. Like on the street, you learn to be on smooth asphalt. But if you come from dirt and you go onto street, you're more flexible in life and be able to ride the bike in different terrains. And so, though I like to plan things, I have to learn to flow and be flexible with it. Because when I'm too uptight or too focused on the outcome, that I'm tensing things up and then I'm resisting. And so I gotta relax.
I like the bike has to wiggle.
Life wiggles, right?
Life has to wiggle like the bike has to wiggle. Yeah, you can't hold too tight. There's a line in the Dharma that says, if you're not willing to let go of something, you don't really own it or control it.
Another bike metaphor said there's the friction zone, for the gas. So it's just enough of when you gotta let off the gas, but the clutch, and it's just what they make you do is when you first time get on the bike, you have to find your friction zone. And that's a beautiful metaphor too, right? Because it's how much gas do you give it while still being centered with the bike and yourself in order to move. And it's a ever so quiet movement. And so they make you stall out all the time. You just keep practicing over and over this friction zone, trying to catch that just the right moment where you let go and you're centered, and it's just a motion that's happening and your bike takes off. And so I am trying to learn that as an entrepreneur. I'm gas, go, 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 right? You got to do that jump. But at the same time, no, Edith, don't. Where is that balance? Where do you need to be in that movement in order to actually move forward in a way where it's safe and you get to your destination?
Okay, y'all, that was our time for today. I will see you next week with another episode. I'm grateful for you, and keep hitting us up, sending us emails, voice memos, thoughts, jokes, all the things to brownenoughproductions@gmail.com. Again, that's brownenoughproductions@gmail.com. Much love.